talking.
Harry Styles with Late Night Talking right here on Radio Tamworth. Now, before we begin, please be aware that the following conversation will include talk on sensitive subjects, including childhood trauma and violence. Today, I feel privileged to be joined by Bill Farley and the incredible Rob Bowker. How are you doing, both?
Good, thank you.
Very well.
Amazing stuff. So welcome to the Radio Tamworth Towers, as I say. Let's dive into the Life After podcast. Talk to us all about it, please.
So the podcast was brought about really on the back of me telling my story. So sadly I lost my wife to suicide in 2019. As always, it's unexpected, but it really was. As a result of that, obviously there were some really dark days thereafter. A lot of soul searching in terms of how the hell are we going to carry on through this and get through this. So me and my late wife had two daughters, Isla and Nelly, and there was a real sort of trauma around that for them. We got to a point, I think, probably 3 months after she'd passed, and decided to tell them really what had happened. And following that, really, we've really sort of like bonded and stuck together as a team. Hence why we are where we are now, really. I'm immensely proud of them and myself. I give myself a pat on the back every now and again.
I was just going to say, my man, like, you've been through a lot as well, and especially for your children, like, you need to big all of yous up, because without that collective collaboration, from
it wouldn't
the family,
have worked. Exactly, it wouldn't have worked. So got to the point where I thought, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell my story in hope that it helps people in respect of you can carry on, you can sort of come out of real difficult moments and sort of, with the right people around you, try and sort of make good and positive out of a really horrible, horrific sort of trauma.
It's all about the people around you as well, isn't it?
Oh, mate, so much appreciation goes to my partner, my kids, my work family, and my business partner, all these people that have had my back profusely throughout all of this. So got to meet a guy called Kev Bagnall. He's the videographer. He's the brains behind the podcast. I've got to say that. And
you're the added brain to it, though, my friend.
Oh yeah, well, I'll take that. But in all seriousness, we got to talking. Someone introduced me to him, and decided to do it. Did my story. The response, Ollie, that I got was absolutely amazing.
Supportive.
Yeah. It was so sort of like well received, and did me the world of good as well, which is not really why I did it, but it did. And I think that anybody who's been on the podcast thereafter has always come back to me and said, you know what, I was so scared to do that, but afterwards, glad I did. And that gives me a great feeling, and almost sort of that symbolises the reason we're doing this. It's to try and get that message out there. Talk, and I can't say that word enough.
You're giving a platform, aren't you, to essentially the people of the community and beyond.
Rob's clearly well versed in going in front of a microphone and sometimes a camera. The emotion that you'll see, within Rob's podcast, it's out tonight, by the way, 6 p.m. It's real, it's raw, and uncut, unedited. It's all in there. And I think that, when you get people, like I say, sat down in front of you and they open up so much, I just think it's absolutely amazing that you see people, being that brave, being that vulnerable.
Mate, we're all human as well. We all have emotions, absolutely. And it's time to show that.
Absolutely.
It's time to show it. So, Rob.
Yes.
You're the face of this episode of the podcast, my friend. So take a moment to tell us then. So obviously this episode looks at your childhood adversity and poverty to Buckingham Palace and Downing Street. Looking back, what do you think kept you going through the toughest of times?
I don't think I had any choice, really. You as a child, you just accept that is your normality. And it's only when, as you're getting older, you look around you and you look at other friends and think, well, their life's not like that. Mm-hmm. I used to go to my mates in Milton Avenue, Raymond Eve, and we went to school together. And his house would be warm. There would be lovely food. He'd have his own nice bedroom. There would be gas and electric. In our house, there wasn't any of that.
Can I ask how that felt for you, Rob?
Well, you get embarrassed. Like as a child, I got bullied and teased at school and was called bogey nose, and you aware that someone would knock the door and give your mum a bin liner full of clothes and say, they're for Richard and Robert, and she would look at them and say, oh, that'll fit you, that'll fit Richard, and that was where we'd get our clothes from. And quite often they didn't fit, but they were the only clothes you got. I would go to school, get teased, so I decided I don't like that. So I started out in the milkman when I was 7, and I was getting up at 5 in the morning, meeting him at the fountain by Landau Forte, sixth form at 6 o'clock, and doing a full day's milk round with a man.
What were the hours like?
You start at 6, and if you ran, I was called a runner, and my job, it's hard for people to believe now that I was as slim as you, and that my job was to, like, I'd do the left hand side of the road, he'd do the right.
Oh, delivering like the milk?
We'd be running.
Did you throw them?
No, but because there were glass bowls at the time. So we would literally run the milk round off, and then the milkman was allowed to check back in at 11, and so he could go for a game of golf or something. So I would literally 7 days a week be helping the milkman until the child services stepped in and said, you're not going to school. Mr. Charles, the wagman, used to chase me everywhere, literally. CVT 583T, Brown Austin in Allegro Estate.
It's stuck in your head.
He chased me in Opus Woods, through the town, by the railway station, and dragged me back to school. I'd get the cane, the cycle would start over again, and then they took my mum to court and dad to court, said that you're not fit to look after him, that he's not going to school. They did my mum and dad for neglect. So I got put into care. So I was having a bad time already when I got put into care.
Was that to provide for your family, though?
Yeah, sometimes, ridiculously, if we ran out of food early, I can remember vividly the Unigate milkman selling potatoes, eggs, bacon joints, sausages, and I would use my money that I'd earned all week to buy food and take it home. And that's kind of embarrassing, but a fact. I would buy clothes with it, with Raymond. We'd go to Birmingham and buy clothes. I would use it for food myself. But then when I got took into care, bear in mind they took me to care to protect me from myself and from my mum and dad.
Yeah.
They left me in Chadswell and Riverside, which are two notorious homes that have been shut under a cloud of badness because paedophiles had infiltrated both places and children were being raped, physically abused, verbally abused, sexually abused, and so they didn't care about us, the people that ended up in jail. So quite often I'd be starving in the children's home because if they gave you liver and onions, I couldn't eat liver and onions if you paid me 500 quid.
No.
So I would say, no, thank you. Well, they didn't go, don't you worry, we'll go and get you another meal, my friend.
That was what you got like.
Eat it or starve. And so I literally was like being back at home again.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
So my whole childhood was of adversity. There would be big fights in the children's home, and I wouldn't know why. Because my mum loved me and would visit, and because she would write to me, and because I was quite gobby as a child and still am, I think they were feared, oh, he'll dob us in, so we're not going to touch him.
Yeah.
But some other children who were much quieter than me, they generally got raped, abused physically and mentally, and some of them committed suicide. Some of them went on to go into jail. Some of them have never rebuilt their lives. So I left once the care order ended, came back to Tamworth with no help. Literally, see you later, you're out of care now. And tried to rebuild my life. And thank God I found music and found DJing and that was my saviour, really.
So
that was my way out.
You've seen it all with your own two eyes, Rob, especially like with going through it and everything. But Billy, what is it that made you realise Rob's story needs to be told on your podcast?
I think the thing with Rob was the fact that I didn't know any of it when I spoke to him. So we'd been speaking about some guys, I can't remember, and he said, how's the podcast going? I said, it's going really well, Matt. I said, why don't you come on and speak about what I thought at the time was more of a colourful life, more happiness, more things to...
Uplifting life.
Be happy about, yeah. And then when he went into his childhood, and I'll never forget it, I was going to the gym, and I sat outside, and I couldn't put the phone down. I said, tell me more.
Yeah.
When he sort of went into sort of like I say, in depth of just what he'd been through, to have turned out to be what and who he is.
Eye-opener.
To champion the things that he does, to try and help people through what he does. Well, in many ways it makes sense, doesn't it? Because what Rob went through in terms of starvation and all the rest of it would lend itself to someone wanting to try and do things with food banks and stuff. But to have the strength to actually do it, it is another thing entirely, isn't it?
I was going to say, whole different story in itself, my friend.
So that was kind of what gripped me to Rob. And please tune in and watch the podcast later on, because the story, like I say, and the emotion showed on it is pure, raw. I can't even sort of put a word on it, but it's inspiring.
We'll definitely come on to that later and how people
Absolutely.
can listen to the podcast, though, because like you say, people do need to listen to this and actually realise, there is two sides to Mr. Rob Bowker that is the community champion today. So, Rob, you've become, as I say, a respected community champion, all through your charity work and your kind heart.
Yeah.
What does it mean to give back to your community?
I think, it's a privilege, and because I've been there and I know, when I'm at the food bank, some people go, food banks ain't real.
Yeah.
They're just scroungers. When I'm there, the other week, there was a day when it was an absolute monsoon, just torrential rain all day. I was convinced no one was going to turn up, and the queue was an hour and a half. No one's going to wait in a monsoon for an hour and a half for food if you're not desperate. The leading reason girls are off school from secondary school is period poverty. They can't afford sanitary towels. Boys the same. If your mum can't afford food from the food bank, and she can't afford gas and electric, she definitely can't afford a can of Shore deodorant and a can of Lynx. So boys get embarrassed that they smell, so they're just out of school, and we're failing our children in 2026.
Do you think it needs to be provided maybe somewhere in the education or the health system that kids need these products for free?
100%. And the hygiene bank, Marie Ballard in Tamworth, does an amazing job of providing sanitary wear and hygiene wear, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes to the community for free.
I didn't even know there was a hygiene. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So straight away, my friend, people need to be told about it more. But also, I think if it's told about it more, you'd slowly come to the realisation that this is a national issue.
There could be people that can donate to these things that don't know about it, and that's where
Marie sends stuff to us. The other day I went and picked up shampoo, suntan lotion. Again, if you can't afford food and gas and electric, you aren't going to be buying your kids suntan lotion.
No.
Cancer, skin cancer is massively growing. If you can't afford,
sun cream,
poverty, you can't afford sun cream in Boots or wherever for 15-20 quid a tub. So just sun cream is vital. So when I started getting involved in different types of charity, it opened my eyes to the community. Simon's Heroes, a beautiful charity in Tamworth, sent me to see three beautiful children who had all got different stories. Lacey Mayhale had got staples all over her head. She was 7 and she said, Santi won't recognise me, all my hair's fallen out. Charlie Round had just died, sadly, and Olivia Rounds was the next child I saw, and the whole family were broken. Charlie had died of cancer. And then the third child, I couldn't even compute it. It was knee slided across the floor. He was only 4, beautiful little boy called Theo. And then his mum said, he's going to die after Christmas, unfortunately. He's got leukemia and it's come back. And it's really aggressive. And I was like, what? And so that's when we formed Santa's Little Helpers. And we've been going nearly 10 years now. And each Christmas with beautiful people like Rosie and Mo and Keelia, Steve Haywood, Karen Haywood, my wife Sam, Millie. We go see 6 or 7 families Christmas Day, but we also provide free toys at the toy bank, at the food bank. We send toys to hospital. Last year it was Good Hope Hospital, children's wards, to Sure Start centres.
How is it to see their faces, Rob?
Well, Christmas Day is really hard because this year I met 2 children who were going to die, and they did die. And when you're looking at their families, the little girl Dottie is their only child, and it doesn't matter whether it's their only child really, but they're losing a child, and they know they're losing a child. That
must be horrible for them as well.
Yeah, and back to Billy's tragic story about suicide. A couple of years ago, I went to a beautiful family in Woodend, and Mum had committed suicide, and the children didn't care about the toys. They just wanted one thing that we couldn't give them, and that was their mum back. So doing this community work allows me to give back, and thankfully music got me out of my poverty, and I've been able to travel the world, and I've had a good life with my children and my beautiful wife, and so giving back, and it leads to some. So I am off the joy. I'm a council estate youth, and I ended up last year at Buckingham Palace with my wife and kids. In January, I went to Downing Street.
Is that where you live now, my friend?
You know, number 10. I was chatting with the Prime Minister about Glasgow and Stonydale for about
Why aren't you there now?
Well, you know, I'm sure he's going to call. He's probably a busy man at the moment, Andy is. He's probably having a pint down the pub. And then I got given the freedom of the Borough of Tamworth and all that. Yes, it's great, but for me, as a kid off the Jewelway, it's surreal. But if you went into my house, there's no awards. There's the freedom of the borough. I've actually put that up right, but there was no awards for clowning. I won international All Goose Clown, lifetime achievement for Staffordshire, multiple Spirit of Tamworth awards. They mean everything, but they don't mean anything. When you're looking at a child who's dying, or you look at a family who are recovering from suicide,
it all becomes nothing, doesn't it?
It means that when you're looking at a queue at the food bank for an hour and a half in Tamworth in 2026, in that heat wave the other week, last week as well, when it was absolutely boiling hot, the queue's still massive. People are standing there in the queue waiting for food.
And it's about time that obviously, you know, this gets recognised, and the fact that this is what the podcast is about, you know, giving people a voice and giving them a chance to kind of tell their story. These 2 individuals that are in the studio today, Rob and Billy, are truly inspiring, and I think the more that people come out and talk about their experiences, the more things are going to get heard. We'll be chatting to them both again right after this. Playing this one for our Rob though, Deacon Blue, Real Gone Kid.
Come on.
I want to hear you singing, Rob, okay?
Definitely.
Now, before we continue, I'd like to remind you that the following conversation will include talk on sensitive subjects, including childhood trauma and violence. Today, we are joined by podcaster and businessman Billy Farley and community radio star Rob Bowker. Say hello for us again, guys.
Hello, guys.
So, Billy, how do you approach conversations then, like sensitivity, while still allowing people to share their story?
I think with an open mind and appreciation that the person's firstly took the time, as Rob did, and all the other guests took the time to come on, be vulnerable.
For sure.
Okay, and you know, I like to describe these people as sort of ordinary but extraordinary.
Spot on.
In the fact that they're able to take, you know, what you'd call painful, traumatic, you know, painful things to go back into, to come on and then try and help others through it.
But also to be a better person as well.
Yeah.
You know, they've seen what it's like and they're like, I want to go for it. I want to be somewhere.
Well, I like to think that within each podcast there might be someone listening that's sort of thinking, you know what, I can relate to that, and if they've got through it, I can too. And it's a real simple message, but I think the overarching message through all of it is talk.
For sure.
And it's the you know, the biggest thing, and a lot of people speak about it, you know, but don't do it. And I think that just by having that conversation, or even by just putting the podcast on, they might come off it and think, do you know what, there is hope.
Yeah. And talking is such a powerful thing as well, isn't it?
Massively.
And
there's loads of people out there that want to listen, mate.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, that's the thing. Sometimes people don't realise the support network they have around them.
And it's nice that you're offering that to the people of the community and beyond.
Absolutely.
But so keep up your hard work on that, Scummer Man. And I can imagine that it's
mate.
Well, there we go.
Stopping.
Full force forwards. Yeah. And I can imagine for you that this is obviously costing quite a bit, and the time that's going into it for you can be quite a lot at times.
Yeah.
So talk to us then. Have you got any sponsors on board as of yet?
Not at the moment. So the sponsorship side of things wasn't something that I'd sort of explored, or even thought about till recently, because I didn't know where this was going to go.
Yeah.
You know, I spoke to you, Ollie, about the way that it was received early doors, and I thought, oh, okay, this is positive. This is encouraging. But as we're sort of going further down the line, we want to sort of do bigger, better. You know, and sort of make this sort of, you know, go to the next level.
Yeah.
And in doing that, you know, sponsorship would be amazing. You know, I'm not sort of pleading or appealing for sponsorship.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that if I did get sponsorship, if me and Kev did get sponsorship, we can do better.
How can people reach out to you?
So look, we're looking
Are you on socials?
Yeah, we're on socials. It's the Life After podcast, and that's on Insta, Facebook, or the normal platforms. If we can team with local companies or national companies, whoever wants to be part of a project that's trying to spread such a positive, powerful message, I'd love to hear from you.
Obviously, I've watched a short tease clip of the podcast that went on socials the other day, and it made me quite emotional, to be fair, Rob, to see you in the state that you was and what you was talking about openly. Can I ask the pair of you, how do you want this episode to be perceived by the people of the public?
What Billy just said, I got invited to Outwards Primary School to do a talk on my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that they'd be bothered, little kids. But the teacher, Claire, who asked me, said that a lot of children are going through adversity, through family breakups, poverty and abuse, and that if they can see that you got out, then they can think, well, maybe I can get out. So exactly like Billy.
It's like a domino effect, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm hoping someone's going to watch that podcast, and they're even... So I'm not going to mention him because I want to keep his privacy, but he actually messaged off the teaser someone we all know in Tamworth, who I highly respect as a wonderful, wonderful man. He's got teeth just like you. And he said, Rob, my childhood was very, very similar. And I thought, he's got it together. He's a wonderful man. And you just don't know. Behind closed doors, you don't know what children and what adults have been through.
Hit the nail on the head, my friend.
Yeah. And if you look at Billy's a wonderful man.
Yeah.
But look what he's been through personally. So I'm just hoping that if we touch somebody and they go, actually, I can get through this. Or actually, that happened to me and I can understand it. And I can make sense of it finally.
The thing for me,
somebody else's
the thing for me, wouldn't it be the easy way out just to not deal with these things mentally, and to share?
Exactly.
But it wouldn't be the right way.
No.
It wouldn't be the right way, and it wouldn't be helpful, and this way is the helpful way.
And it's important to keep doing what you're doing and the drive and the commitment you have. And the fact that you've spoke about it openly, Rob, massive respect.
It was a privilege to do it, and I said to him, I'll only do it if I can be 100% honest. And I wanted to be. That's why it does get emotional, because, I was robbed of my special time with my mum. My mum died in 1985. I spent 7 years in care where I could have been with my mum. She never hit me, and she never was sexually abusing anybody and physically abusing people, and sadly she died, and I'll never get that time back.
It's awful,
I'm bitter about that. And so
imagine.
In the podcast I do get emotional about that. That got me.
But that's human.
More than once.
Everybody's human.
Yeah, it got me. And it gets me about the children. Sansa the Alpers always gets me. And I can't do it. I can't not do it. I'm in therapy, and my therapist says Well, you could say no. It is a choice, and as I say in the podcast, it's like putting your hand on a gas cooker. You know it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
You know it's going to burn.
But you've got to do it.
I've got no choice but to do it, because if I don't, there'll be children whose parents have committed suicide or who are dying of cancer, and they won't get a visit at Christmas. Some people have stopped me before in Costa and said, "Can I just say thank you?" I didn't recognise the man because I'm always in costume, obviously. And he said, "You came to my house Christmas Day. I'll never be able to thank you. It's memories that we've got for life."
But that's the effect that you have, Rob, on people. And I can't wait any longer to ask this question, and I'm sorry to butt in here, but is this podcast fully released yet? And for those interested in listening or watching it, where can they listen when it's live?
6 p.m. this evening.
This evening?
We're nearly there.
This is
7 minutes time.
This is timed impeccably, all in all fairness, and unintentionally, I will add, but it's ironic. And when we talk about the stars aligning, haven't they just in this respect? But I think, for me, I will add this, Rob does... all the guards go down, and it's no holds barred, and he just expresses every bit. He goes back to that time in this podcast. You can see that, and I think that's hugely commendable.
Amazing.
And he even called me last night because I sent him a copy, and he said, "I'm really sorry, I didn't let you get a word in edgeways." That's what it's all about. It's the people coming on and telling their story.
Giving them a voice.
And you did that
My
really
wife
well.
told me off. She said, "Let the man speak. Let the man speak." It's on Insta. It's on YouTube. It's going to be on Facebook.
Billy and Rob, you are both Tamworth legends. I've said this loads, and you're probably sick of me saying it, but it's true. Both of you are empowering the community and those beyond to step up and use their voice with radio and podcasting. Keep up all of your hard work, and I hope to see you both soon.
Thank you very much, mate.